Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing today, and I thank our witnesses for appearing before us. This is an issue that is close to me, as I believe that South Texans, people in South Texas, Americans, understand the very real impact of rising housing costs. More and more Americans continue to see their housing expenses rise as their single most expensive monthly cost. Inflationary pressures have pushed interest rates up and added premiums unaffordable to some would-be homebuyers. And since the pandemic, Washington has only made this issue worse by pumping trillions of dollars of Democrat-sponsored spending into the economy. Mr. Appleton, as you know, there are several factors in the mortgage market simultaneously hindering an increase in the housing supply. Our current high interest rate environment both increases cost to borrowers and also de-incentivizes existing home sales from homeowners locked into lower rates. We now also see the potential for the Basel III proposal to dramatically increase capital requirements and in turn potentially increase the risk weighing of single-family mortgages. My question is this: can you elaborate on the negative impact that this would have on mortgage affordability and mortgage availability?
Thank you for your question, Congresswoman. If finalized, the proposed Basel III endgame would limit the ability for certain banks to provide access to credit for low down payment borrowers, including many first-time low and moderate income and minority borrowers. The rule should recognize the loss-absorbing benefits of private mortgage insurance in determining the loan-to-value ratio-based risk weights, but it doesn't. So restoring that recognition would encourage innovation in portfolio lending and level the playing field to ensure consumers have access to a broad array of low-down payment financing options across bank portfolio products, GSEs, and government agency executions.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna have you repeat this. You said that the Basel III would have a significant impact on minorities, is that correct?
So communities of color and minorities are less likely to have the intergenerational wealth to bring a large down payment to the closing table. And by Basel's risk weights and lack of recognition for private mortgage insurance, it's going to make it uneconomical and very difficult for banks to engage in that type of lending.
So where we have my colleagues on the other side of the aisle say that Basel III is actually going to help minorities, what I'm hearing from you is that it's actually going to hinder minorities in their dream of having their home. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's largely been alignment among consumer groups, mortgage market participants, and members of this committee on both sides of the aisle that Basel III is going to be negative for low down payment borrowers, including low and moderate income and minority borrowers.
So now that we are all in agreement that housing affordability is at historic lows, is now the right time for regulators to further restrict access to capital?
Absolutely not.
And Mr. Mitchell, along those same lines of government intervention impacting the housing market, we also saw that President Biden and congressional, my colleagues on the other side, pumped trillions of dollars into the economy these past few years. Of course, that led to inflationary pressure, and it continues to impact and is the reason why we're here right now. Given this high interest rate environment, would you say that, or I'm going to ask, what market-based recommendations do you have to bring down the cost of housing?
Well, again, I think this is largely a crowding out sort of problem, so I have several recommendations alluded to in the testimony that would start that path, but you've got roughly 90% or more of the market mortgage-backed security market dominated by the federal government. That's one way you have to start paring that back. So the excessive use provision is one thing that could be defined and enforced. Reducing FHA insurance to match VA insurance, that would be another.